Now, we also have an intelligence, right? We have immanent mind and an animal mind. Our immanent mind is our angelic nature, transcendence, higher spirit, higher consciousness. And our animal mind is our impulse and instincts. It's what we need to survive and to keep going, such as, for example, food, thirst, reproduction, and so on. So when people say, oh, I did it because I just had my gut instincts told me this. When you do that, when you say my gut instincts told me this, you are protecting yourself. Because gut instincts come from the gut. Intuition comes from the heart. So when you are saying gut impulse, gut instinct, it's because you have these innate fears of protecting yourself because you are possibly having a threat of something that's going to challenge you. And so you'll make a decision based on survival, not a decision based on creation. Because intuition comes from the heart, it's above the diaphragm, right? There's a higher purpose to it, higher consciousness. Now, in those states, so the immanent mind, which is the animal stuff, and the angelic mind is basically a representation that you have a higher calling or a higher message within you. Do you guys agree that you have a message you want to share on planet Earth? Yeah? Whatever that message is to you, that's your higher calling, that's your angelic nature, right? That's a phototropic energy movement. It goes into the celestial, into the heavens. But your animal mind is a gravitropic, which moves down into the terrestrial. So one part of you goes into the terrestrial, which is animal, and the other part goes into the celestial, which is heavenly. When you live according to your higher values, you move into the celestial and you have a purpose and a calling to change the world for the better. Because in that state of mind, when you're living to your higher values, you don't become selfish. You want to give, and you want to give, and you want to give to the world. But you do it with a regulation of compassion, not dysfunctional compassion. So most of the time we get too compassionate and we want to do things altruistically, but it's at a sacrifice of ourselves. Do you agree that people just keep giving and feel like, oh, I need to give, but it's actually hurting them? That's dysfunction, right? That's dysfunctional compassion. Because remember, the word passion means to suffer with or to suffer. Compassion means to suffer with someone. We don't want to suffer with someone. We want to give altruistically, but kind of have a narcissistic return. Because that creates the fair exchange principle, right? So now we are in balance. So then we don't go into a state of resentment. Because if I keep giving and giving to you, yeah, it might feel good for a while, but then I realize you're getting a lot and I'm not getting nothing, and I'm sacrificing myself, so I'm putting you up on a pedestal, I'm putting myself in a pit. Well, I'm actually dying. Make sense? So psychologically, I'm going to death. So of course I'm going to build resentment, and that's normal intelligence from my body to do so, because it's trying to help me become aware of something greater, which is the fair exchange principle. So according to your higher values, you have a purpose and a calling that you want to change yourself in the world. That's higher consciousness, right? But when we have lower values, we become an animal. We have impulsive and instinctive reactive reflexes based on survival. So what is it? We need immediate satisfaction. Give it to me and give it to me now. And if I don't have it, there's a problem. Right? So we create addictive personalities and addictive behaviors. What's addictions? Every addiction has what's called a subdiction or a sub-addiction. And when you have an addictive personality, it's because the person cannot move or resolve this sub-addiction, which is something they're addicted to that they can't resolve in their life. So they have to create the exact opposite polarity, which is an addiction, to go and fulfill themselves immediately, because they're an animal in this state, because they can't resolve the actual core problem. Right? So I had a client who was an addictive gambler and alcohol, and he did the machines, the machines and the, yep. So, and I said, what does that mean to you, right? Like, what does it mean when you do that? And he goes, well, you might laugh, Sohial, but it means light. So what does that mean? And he goes, well, I just like the lights. I said, so you go to gamble because you like the lights? And he goes, yes. But I said, what does it mean to you? And he goes, it reminds me that there's people around. Well, what does that mean to you? Well, it means that there's other people like me in the world. And what does that mean to you? Well, it means I can relate and I can talk freely without any judgment, because they're probably doing the same thing. So anyway, what happened was his ultimate sub-addiction was the fact that he had a problematic relationship with his wife and he couldn't resolve that. And so he didn't have enough feeling and testosterone in man that he can resolve that issue, so he moved into an addictive personality to move away from something that he can't resolve. So you would probably see this in your clients. It's gambling, it's alcohol, it's tobacco or smoking, marijuana, it's heroin, drugs, and it's food, right? Sometimes sex. These are the addictive personality stuff that we move towards. Yes, you see this with your clients, right? It's the common ones. There's probably more, but they're the common ones. And that's what happens when you live according to your lower values.